everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Fundie Fridays, and here we talk about fundies while I do my makeup. I'm actually really excited for this episode. I have been following the Browns since about as long as I've been following the Duggars. And lucky for you, I actually own their book. That's right, I actually bought it 6 months before I even contemplated starting this channel. Many years, polygamy or plural marriage was actually the norm for Mormons. Normans. And it was not well received by the general population. And because of it and some other shenanigans by Joseph Smith, Mormons faced lots of violence and even persecution. The practice of polygamy, or the principle, was discontinued by the mainstream LDS Church in 1890, but many members continued to practice it in secret and formed their own churches. It is a very hot topic in the LDS community, and despite the Mormon Church's stance on polygamy, it is actually more popular than ever, with families all over the country living the principle and even appearing on shows like TLC's Seeking Sister Wife. How do I know it's popular? Well, let's just say that hypothetically, I created an account on sisterwives.com, a website for people to find a plural spouse. And despite the fact that I used a picture of pro wrestler Sasha Banks as my picture, my name being a reference to a vine, I still receive messages on the daily. The patriarch of the family is Kody Brown. And he was born January 17th, 1969 in Wyoming. He was raised mainstream Mormon, and eventually his father was called to practice the principle and take on several more wives, because of course he did. And one of his father's wives actually appeared on the show.
And come into the family. There is a certain shaking up that happens. Everyone is insecure at a time, and but yet after the dust settles, it just adds assets to the family.
We call it kind of like a wheel, and there are certain spokes in the wheel. Each wife is a spoke in the wheel. Well, when another wife comes in, then every one of those spokes has to move.
To be balanced.
And the more spokes in the wheel, the stronger the wheel is.
One of Kody's father's wives is actually the mother of his second wife, Janelle. The church that Kody and his family belong to is the AUB, or the Apostolic United Brethren. This fundamentalist Mormon church was founded by Lauren C. Woolley in 1830. With the principles that wives must be 18 to get married, they must choose their own husbands, and a few other things. Kody was your typical do-gooder Chad type, and started dating his wife Mary after a New Year's dance. They got along great when it was just the two of them, and they married in 1990. Kody sells advertising to billboards as his day job and makes money from the show. Mary was born January 16th, 1971. She is your typical boss babe, live, laugh, love, scented candle Caucasian mom. She was born in California, but after her family decided to also live the principle, they moved to Utah. She has one child, Mariah, who's actually a left-wing lesbian who lives in Chicago, so that's pretty cool. Mary also sells LuLaRoe and owns a bed and breakfast. In 1993, Kody started dating his next wife, Janelle. She is from Utah and was born May 6, 1969. Janelle had been previously married to Mary's brother, and according to this book, before she got married, she wanted to experiment with the Native American lifestyle, so she lived in a teepee on Kody's father's land for a whole winter. Lola is my favorite. She seems like the most level-headed of the bunch. And for the majority of her marriage, she's had a successful career. In the first episode of Sister Wives, she explains how she came to embrace the lifestyle.
I grew up in the mainstream Mormon church, and they don't practice polygamy. I had no idea there was even such a thing as polygamous. I mean, I live here in an area where there's a lot. I had no idea, none. I met Mary's family when I was 19. I actually met Kody a few years after that. So they were like my little model polygamous friends for a long time. I have these friends and they're polygamous, you know what I mean? I think I was 22 when I finally thought, wow, Kody's a great guy. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm okay with this plural marriage thing, you know? When I finally decided, it really didn't seem so strange. It was not like this big, let me think about this. It wasn't a huge jump for me.
She has 6 children with Kody and is now a grandma. After Janelle and Kody got married, she moved into the same house that Kody and Mary were living in, and they did not get along, with Janelle accusing Mary of bullying behavior. And to this day, there is still animosity between the two.
Like, we don't even ride in the same car when we come to see her.
Yeah, no.
Because, like, that's way too much. That half-an-hour drive is way too much. That's just way too exposed, way too uncomfortable.
In the same book, Janelle admits to going through a deep depression and leaving the family for 2 years. Even though his 2 wives were fighting, Kody decided to go ahead and get a third. Christine, the self-appointed princess of the family.
Okay, Mom, stop. She thinks that that's helping, it is not. So Mom decides to just like run around the room and scream and just be obnoxious. Weird, right? Every time I
Was born April 18th, 1972 in Utah. She insists that she wanted to be the third wife because in theory the first two wives should have already worked out the dynamics of sharing a husband, and ideally you would be the last wife, therefore the favorite. But that theory does not work in practice. They married in 1994 and also have 6 children together. When she entered the family, there was more turmoil than ever. Christine, who grew up in a prominent polygamist family, did not get along with Mary and Janelle and lived separate from them for a while. Christine is also a distant cousin of Kody, so I guess their family tree is just one branch after all. Christine pretends to be a crunchy mom and refuses to use toasters and microwaves because of radiation.
And I don't have microwave skills because they actually shoot harmful chemicals.
Christine doesn't have a microwave at her own house, so using a microwave at our hotel was just not functional.
I wouldn't want to serve that to my kids anyway because it has harmful radiation in microwaves, you know, that shoots up.
Now on to Robyn, the only wife that really matters. Robyn came into the picture 16 years after the rest of the wives, and her ex-husband is David Preston Jessup, who is also from a prominent polygamist family. She is 10 years younger than Kody, and according to anybody with eyes, she is the favorite. She demands the most attention, is the youngest and prettiest, and has the biggest house. She seems nice, I guess, if not whiny. She and the other wives own an online boutique called My Sister Wives Closet, where they sell rings and t-shirts that look like they were designed by Ed Hardy. I say the other wives own it, but it really is Robyn's baby. Their wedding was televised, and since Robyn got a nice TLC wedding, the other wives were jealous because theirs were secretive and most likely held in a cafe gymnasium. Robyn is known to be combative with fans online and often speaks out when viewers try to talk smack. There's a link to one of the Q&As she has done in the info box below.
You just said that you would leave if you didn't believe it.
Do not twist my words.
I'm asking.
Do not make me a victim, sweetie.
In 2010, Kody and his family got their own show on TLC, appropriately titled Sister Wives. It was a hit and sparked curiosity around the lives of people practicing polygamy. Because of their show and their now public lifestyle, an investigation was launched against the family. Janelle and Mary were fired from their jobs, as well as cops and reporters showing up at their house.
Turns out the Lehigh City Police Department launched an investigation into the polygamous marriage.
We intend to investigate it and see where that leads us. Once that's done, we'll forward that on to the county attorney's office.
There's guys outside filming. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's guys outside.
They're filming the house and have press filming the house and coming to the door, so they just filmed the front of the house.
Yeah. They're filming the house again.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. I looked out the window and there's a van and there's a reporter and they've got a camera.
It seems like one of the kids was the first one who noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
That was freaky.
Here we go. We answer the door?
I
would say no.
I didn't like that. Instantly, I did not feel safe. I'm like, ugh. I worried about the safety of our kids with them coming home from school. I didn't want them to film our kids.
In Utah, the laws against polygamy are especially harsh because of the stigma it holds to the state. Even though Kody is only legally married to one of his wives, Utah has additional laws against spiritual marriage and cohabitation. I always thought it was really messed up that people like Kody and his family got in trouble, yet entire communities like Colorado City and the Kingston clan are allowed to operate with child labor, extreme abuse, and teenage brides, but that's for another episode. So in the middle of the night and with next to zero notice, they packed up the kids and moved to Vegas.
So, because of the circumstances, we are moving to Las Vegas. What's magical about our home is us. We're moving so we can stay a family.
In 2011, the Brown family filed a lawsuit against the state of Utah, challenging the existing laws against polygamy. It was struck down in 2016 by the 10th Circuit Court because they claim that Utah doesn't usually prosecute polygamy, so the Browns have nothing to fear. And in 2017, the governor of Utah passed a law that extended the punishment of polygamy up to 15 years in prison. When the family got to Vegas, they lived in separate houses, and there were problems associated with being so spread apart. Eventually, they built expensive mansions across from each other. And of course, the wives fought over bedrooms, countertops, and who deserved French doors.
You have no idea how stressful and frustrating this is to me, Kody.
Why don't we start with the French doors? Let's eliminate them.
I'm not having a sliding door, Kody. I have said that from the beginning.
The majority of the show focuses on the family living in these houses. Plenty of family moments were televised, including the birth of Robyn's children, vacations, and lots of emotional breakdowns. In 2015, Kody legally divorced Mary so he could legally marry Robyn and adopt her kids from the previous marriage. This obviously caused jealousy and provided more fuel to the fire that Robyn was in fact the favorite. Robyn's ex is currently MIA and not involved in his children's lives. Kody is now their father figure, and that's all well and good, but it is very weird that as an adoption present, Robyn had a drawing commissioned where a young Kody is stenciled in with her children, as if he was always there. The biggest scandal to actually come out of the Sister Wives universe is when Mary was catfished by a lesbian and dragged it on for 3 seasons. Well, it actually gets weirder than that. In 2015, Mary started communicating with someone she believed to be named Sam. According to Mary, the conversations were strictly platonic, but that's contrary to the story that we know now. Mary sent pictures of herself sucking on a banana and left all kinds of dirty voicemails to this person. I'm not going to play them because if I did, the cringe factor would actually pull your soul out of your body, and I don't want that to happen to you. Mary even unknowingly hung out with her catfisher at Disney World. Mary was spending time with a person who was claiming to be Sam's assistant, but it was actually the person all along.
Sam really, really wanted me to meet Lindsay and get to know her. And I remember asking him, well, why is it so important that I know her when I haven't even met you yet? I just thought, well, why is this guy not ever showing his face? It was on this trip that I figured out that it was Lindsay who was the one that was puppeting the whole thing.
It is now known that Sam is really Jackie Overton, someone who is notorious for tricking people online. Jackie soon started threatening Mary and acting very controlling toward her. Mary then realized she was in over her head and fessed up to Kody about the relationship.
There were times early on that I was talking to him that I knew that he was just feeding me a line of bull.
This situation would be embarrassing enough for a regular person to handle, but Mary's incident was actually played out on TV, and so was her subsequent falling out with Kody. Mary started detaching herself from the rest of the family and was called out for it on several occasions. In season 13, Mary even brought a friend to meet her family who was catfished by the same person, and it was very awkward.
Something bad happened to her, but she also played a role in that.
You know, he would throw a hissy fit and hang up on me, and then she would appear and be like, well, you better call him, and you better say this, and you better say this. That's the only way you're gonna fix it. Trust me, I've known him for 20 years, and if you don't say it, you know, it's never gonna fix it.
Controlling much?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that she forgets I was there when all of this was happening. And it was hard on me. It was hard on my family. It was hard on her too. I'm not saying it wasn't. And I explicitly said to her, you can be tricked online because you don't know who these people are.
After the scandal had passed, Jackie, under the fake name Sam Cooper, published a book on Amazon called Almost Married, which tells the tale of their alleged affair. Last year, Kody got a bug up his ass that the family needed to move to Flagstaff, Arizona, seemingly for no other reason than because Robyn wanted to.
Eventually, I'm going to lead. And many times I'm going to lead against their desires, my wife's desires. I'm going to lead to places they might not want to go, ideas they don't want to do, things they don't want to be involved, but I'm going to lead.
There was, of course, turmoil in the family, with the oldest kids realizing how stupid this was.
That's what I guess I don't understand, is the suddenly moving to another state just because.
I don't think it's a just because. I'm personally done with this state. I don't know why Flagstaff works, because it's farther away from you.
Well, it's 4 hours from here, which is fine. But when we moved to Utah in a year, that's 8 hours. Flagstaff, Arizona, that's so random. That is ridiculous. Like, the fact that I'd have, 4-hour drive from here, that's fine. I can do it. But you're gonna be 8 hours away from the majority of your family in a year. I don't get the point of that.
Kody had an architect design an all-inclusive polygamist house for his entire family, but they didn't end up going through with it.
And so there's a couple requirements that we've got, and these will be things that will be important. I don't want any master, small or main master. I don't want any main master for a wife. I do not want their rooms near each other. Because every wife, when she's in a room with you, wants to feel like that she's the only woman in the world.
Okay, stop. I know.
Yeah.
I get it.
And so they don't want, I can't have masters close to each other.
You know, separate those master bedrooms so each wife feels alone in the house.
And this is why it requires a genius of architecture because you know, you might have to put a kitchen on top of a master or a master on top of a kitchen.
The family does currently live in Flagstaff, with each wife having their own separate place to live. And of course, Robyn has a giant $900,000 house. This lifestyle that the Browns live is not a cheap one. Each member of the family has an incredible amount of debt, and it doesn't help that they are always buying properties and starting businesses that flop. Kody and Mary filed for bankruptcy in 2005, and I'm pretty sure that the show is the only thing that's paying their light bills. None of the kids have embraced the plural lifestyle, and that's fine with me. I really do enjoy the show despite the snark. It's highly entertaining. I guess my thesis for this video is that although the Browns may not be your typical fire and brimstone, homophobic, abusive Fundies, they can still be unsavory. Kody is constantly uprooting his wives and children all over the country for seemingly no reason. He often acts in a way that is very inconsiderate of the family that depends on him. He still acts patriarchal and controlling, even though he claims to be an open-minded surfer dude. Collecting wives is a problem all on its own. I can appreciate that the Browns are progressive in some ways, but they aren't exactly the poster children for healthy relationships. Kody makes comments about his wife's weights, goes behind their backs for important decisions, and even admits he doesn't have a good relationship with his daughters. Some could argue that although Kody's wives say they chose this lifestyle, how could they possibly have consented when the only thing they've ever been taught is that plural marriage is the ticket to the celestial kingdom? I think it's fair to allow families like the Browns to cohabitate because they aren't actually hurting anybody, but I still think it's important to criticize the concept of, because at its root, it is a sexist way of life. But whether the practice of polygamy is ethical or not is not really up to me. After all, I'm not a moral philosophy professor. If you like this video, remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button. Check me out on Tumblr and Instagram, and have a nice day.
4 hours of sleep last night.
Okay. Do you want to take over this conversation?
I'm about to go crazy here. Just leave me alone with all the requests, kids. I'm still trying to pack bags. Crazy's coming.
No way.